All right. Let's get it started. So I'm starting a few minutes early, like usual, because that's how I am. If you're not early, you're late in my book. Nah, just how I am. But we'll let people jump in. But I won't get too deep into things. We'll go over some basic stuff that's going on in the markets right now. Of course, what I'll probably do first, and then I'll do this at the end as well, is at least go over what I'm looking for this week. And then, we'll dive into questions. We'll dive into other stocks people are looking at and stuff like that to be watching. So, futures right now, they gapped up. So let me actually look at the chart that I have pulled up. They gapped up really quick, like right once futures started to begin trading. And then they've actually come back. So they're red a little bit. We have tech that's up. But at least, it's barely red. So I wouldn't be too concerned about that based on how things close. So we'll see what happens again. Into tomorrow morning, because a lot's going to change. They're going to fluctuate quite a bit, so I wouldn't really be too concerned. We kind of see kind of a mixed view. Tech's up. I guess everything else is down slightly, but you can't. That's not a significant move. But we are at a pretty important point, at least in the S&P. So this is just going to give us a good sense of where we are in the market right now. So what should we be looking for? So we're at a potential area. This is actually looking like, to me, very bullish right now. So we have uptrending support, so higher lows being put in on SPY. And so then we're coming up along this top line resistance right here. So we have some wicks and we have some candles at that 365 is a key area. Once we can close above 365, confirm that we're above that 365, that's putting us probably to all-time highs. We had a quick wick there, but that should set us to all-time highs here for the S&P. I know the Dow just hit 30K, so that's this past week, right? So that's nuts too. Given a lot of the circumstances, I don't really know how much negativity. I mean, there's a lot of negativity, of course, but it seems like the market doesn't really care with virus cases and things like that at this point. So you really can't put that nail that to exactly what's going on in the overall market. There's a lot of other stuff that's going on that we don't really. That's kind of getting blended in and being priced in here. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. This could be the break above. If we get any other potentially positive news, this could catapult us above to all-time highs. I still think, I know we've been talking about it so much, right? I still think that the stimulus news is important. Once we can get, because personally to me, right, from what we're seeing with stimulus right now, it's just like, it's not. It's like, who cares? Like it seems as if that those who are working on it are not seriously considering getting this done, at least right now. So we'll see what happens. If we get some kind of news saying, hey, all of a sudden, we got a stimulus deal ready to go and it's agreed upon, that could pop the market right now. I think it's priced in, but at the same time, if it happens sooner rather than maybe like, we're thinking that happens in more like January, February timeframe right now. If it happens before the end of the year, that could be a potential, catalyst for the market to kind of move up into the end of the year. But things are looking bullish, just technically speaking. Of course, looking at technicals on SPY is different than looking at technicals on a specific stock, in my opinion, because we have so much news and so many things that can move the overall market up or down. So that doesn't really matter in terms of the technicals as much. At least that's just what I've been finding. So you are definitely going to be going over the wheat stocks. Should we be worried about reverse split? So I think SNDL, there's the 18th. I think there's the 18th of December. So SNDL is something for me that I'm not going to be in more than a couple days this week. It's something that I'm worried about, a potential reverse split like you're saying, or potentially who knows what's going to happen with them. So I'm not going to be in that one for a while. But the thing with SNDL is that it can move so much more. So like you might see a 50% move in ACB or Tilray, and we'll talk about those. But SNDL might go 100 to 200%. Because so we'll see. That's really tomorrow will be my judge. If SNDL starts breaking out above some resistance levels, which we'll talk about, then I'll just hold some. But if it doesn't, then I'll be taking some profits and then saying, hey, let's really just let's hold what I have in my Tilray, ACB, other replays. Find some, maybe there's lesser known or hidden ones that haven't run as much. Finding some of those gems, those could be some pretty big plays for the week, because I think we should see a continuation play. We'll see what happens, of course, tomorrow. Everyone's been talking about it. It's getting a little bit of hype, which is good because, you want to see that hype for these crazy moves. And we want that, Whether, at the end of the day, right, we're not here, at least I'm not here for a lot of these, quicker trades. I'm not here for, the company long term. I'm here for the hype let's see what we can get, what we can find that's going to make us the most money right now, be in those positions. And then long term, I have plenty of stuff that I'm comfortable with holding long term that'll outperform the market anyway. So I don't really care about the long term positions, and I can talk about some of those too as well. So I like HCAC Canoe. I see some stuff in the chat. So I'm going to kind of touch on a couple things I see here, guys, in the chat. And then what I'm going to do right now is go through what I am in, just at least because I know some people care, but some people don't. So let me just run through my positions. Now, a lot of these things I'm scaling out, so I'm not going to be like, oh, like I'm loading up in this. I'll tell you which ones I like the most, but a lot of the ones I'm scaling out. So Zoom, for example, I'm scaling out of Zoom. It's breaking out here, which is awesome, but I took some shares off. So I had an average here under 400, so I did pretty well on that, almost up $100 per share. Could have played options on that one, but again, the timing for me, I just don't like playing options as much because you're fighting the time, and you're fighting the move. So I think the move's going to happen. It did, awesome, but the timing, I actually lost money like a week, 2 weeks ago on Zoom options over the weekend because we had vaccine news Monday, Zoom drops Monday, but now you're already putting yourself at a disadvantage to start the week, even though it recovered nicely into the end of the week. You put yourself, when you're buying an out-of-the-money option, you're putting yourself at a major disadvantage right away if the move doesn't start to happen pretty early on in that option, right? If that option expires by Friday and Monday the stock's dropping, if you're buying a call, you're going to be looking at a tougher chance for that option to go green on you. So I'm not a huge fan. Of course, you can play them tons of different ways. But that's that. So Zoom I'm pulling out. I'm scaling out. SNDL is one of those penny plays that I am in. So what we have here with SNDL is we had a pretty tough 40-cent resistance, right? So we couldn't break above this 39.9, this 40 cent. We did. We just barely did at the end of the last couple minutes of the after-hours session on Friday. So we did that, but I barely. So we'll see what happens. Of course, I'm expecting a gap up with more volume. I'm expecting a gap up. Now, whether that actually happens or not, we'll see. So what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to sell some shares of SNDL. Let me pull up a little better chart. So we hit this high right here of 49.70, so 50 cents is another area of resistance. So I'm looking to sell some SNDL prior to that level because I have a little bit of a lower average. I messed up in buying SNDL up here, like 44 cents, was up a little bit, but then didn't take the day trade and then it came back down. So I averaged I actually averaged down here on Friday, and it's been popping up since. So that's what I like with SNDL. I'm looking for that 50 cent break. We break 50 cents. That could be a bigger move. So with SNDL, we zoom out and we see, why do I say that this is a riskier play? Because I believe this stock has to get over $1. And so if it doesn't, right, we have the risks of reverse splits, we have the risks of delisting, and so there's those things that are going into things, and so I want to be very careful and don't want to get caught in that. I also don't want anybody else to get caught in that who just listen to kind of what I was doing. But at the end of the day, really, guys, when it comes down to that stuff, do not just blindly do what I or anybody else that you see on the internet does, unless you are completely, not confident, but unless you are understanding of the risk associated with that position and you kind of know what's going on and you're willing to take a loss on that trade. Just understand that. So that's that. And then right here, it's this 60 cent area that I'm looking for next. And the reason why is because this thing could go, right? So we were looking at a stock that was like 30 cents on Friday. This thing could go to 85 cents. It could go to $1 if things get absolutely nutty. So that's why there's insane potential. Do I think it's going to go that high? I think personally, we'll see what happens tomorrow. But if tomorrow we see this thing kind of in this 40 to 60 cent range, that would be my best guess for tomorrow. If it goes above 60 cents, this is going to get crazy, and then we might see continuation to the rest of the week. So that's why I like that guy. ACB is one that, look at this, we're breaking above this 10. So the more we hold above 10, the better. This thing can make a shot towards 15 and potentially further. $20 is my next shot if we break above this 15 and this 16, this high we had in pre-market here a couple weeks back. Tilray is my other weed play that I'm also in. This chart looks a lot better in terms of it just bouncing off this chart, which is this beautiful trend line. So I like this one a lot personally. So I think it has a shot towards 15, and we'll see what happens with Tilray, ACB. Those are my two probably favorite longer swings where I'm not looking to be like super crazy. Oh, I'm going to take profits quick. SNDL, I'm looking to take profits a little bit quicker and then letting some shares ride if things do get nutty. So that's at least my plan on those plays. If you guys were on the live on Friday, on the live trading for the entire day. I entered into PIC. We had a decent average, actually like somewhere in the low 14s. And we kept buying it down around this little horizontal line right here. We bought it there, and then it finished up strong into the end of the day, popping over 15. I think that one's going to go for 20. I will probably be looking to take profits as we push towards 20. I have a longer term position as well with an average down around 10, 30. So that one I'm just holding, but in this shorter term account, I'm looking to take advantage of some momentum that we have going on here, breaking out of this high. Reason why I like it so much over 14 was because the prior high here was 14, right? When we had the initial news of this merger. So that was really why I think we can get a little bit more extension to the upside here for PIC. So those are some of those. We're still in BLU, bottom swing play. I still feel fine with that. LTBR, I'm also in, look at this little uptrend we have developing here above this 50 SMA, looking pretty good, kind of making a bullish move off of that. We also just entered Learn, online learning play, putting in a little bit of a higher low here. We look like we're pretty much bottomed out. Pretty low risk with a couple dollar risk to the downside, looking for a couple, more than a couple dollar upside, potential $30 plus is what I'm looking at potentially here with LRN. ADTX also still in this one. It's a bottom swing play, waiting for the catalyst, waiting for the emergency youth authorization news. So there's that. I'm in a couple of shipper plays, super light, nothing crazy by any means with those shipper plays. I'm also in ATIF. It's a China play, bottomed out. We just had an offering close, and now we're pushing back to the upside. So this stock loves to announce news, so I have some orders set towards $1. So we're watching that guy. And that's what I'm at least in mostly. The rest of these are smaller positions. MARA, I'm still riding 100 shares of MARA, so we'll see. Bitcoin, also, that's one thing to note too before we dive into some more questions. Bitcoin, take a look at this. So we saw last week, we had Bitcoin popping to to just shy of 20,000. 20,000 is the key number here when it comes to Bitcoin, right? That'll put us and break us out over 20K, all-time highs. So what we had a drop down. We hit lows of 16.2, and we consolidated in this area. We've been bouncing off of that level. So we're looking pretty strong right now. And the anticipation, at least for me, is that we're going to have resistance. We take a step back and look at the weekly chart. So going back now to 2017, right, when we had this initial pop to these highs, right, we're at that level. So I'm not surprised to see some volatility as people who bought up at those levels are just selling to break even or whatnot, right? So if that's the case, then, that's fine. And I had that concern. That was a concern of mine for sure when we originally were coming up very, very quick to these levels. So now that we hit that level, right, now we hit that point, it's now the second try to break those highs. And I think the second time the charm. If not, we'll see what happens. If we can hold up at that level, it may take a little bit longer, but we'll see what happens with Bitcoin. That's why I like my MARA. That's why I like RIOT. And there's a couple other plays as well that I have. I have a video talking about some other Bitcoin stocks that I would be watching for sure. MFH could be one of those as well that has some ties. So Bitcoin looking very strong right now. A pretty big recovery from how we finished on Friday. So it looks good. So that's my kind of spiel here for the first few minutes. So now I'm going to jump back over to some of the questions in the chat, and we will look at some other stocks that we're looking at. So I see a bunch of stuff. I see Canoe. I like Canoe as well personally. I have been a pretty big fan. I don't think I have any Canoe personally because I had just it would be in my longer term portfolio. Not that I don't like it. I like Canoe. I'm just in a bunch of other stuff that I think is, for right now, my money's, fine in those stocks. I think Canoe just offers a very similar return potential to some other plays that I'm also in. So I don't really feel like I need to add that one right now, but it's one that I definitely have on the list as well. GNUS is one that was popping up last week, I believe. So we were watching GNUS. It broke above this 140. When it broke over 140, that's a good sign. So now GNUS, the question is going to be, can we get over this 150? We can get rid of this trend line right here. We got to break over that 150. We break over 150. It looks like 160 will be the next level, and then we can start making a push towards $2. So GNUS is actually looking pretty strong. For those who have held through, I know there's a lot of bag holders that bought it up here. For those who have potentially held through or started to accumulate here, as we had a pretty solid round, like a 95 cent to $1 support, those who bought those levels, you're looking pretty good right now. You're up nicely. If you have an average towards $1, you're up nearly 50%, which is looking really good. So GNUS does look pretty promising. I haven't been following super closely, so I don't know exactly what's going on here, if there's some more stuff driving it, but it's looking chart-wise, it's looking like it's making a nice little move. Let's take a look. Let's go through some other ones. LCA. Sorry, almost missed the mouthful on this guy. LCA looking beautiful as well. We just got the approval from New Jersey, so this thing is playing, is playing out awesome. We've been watching this one for quite some time. We had some resistance here around $19, around $20. We couldn't break it. Came back down all the way down towards $11. A very similar story here with LCA. Compare that to like FSR. Honestly, the charts look pretty similar to, in a sense. We bounced off the support here, and now we're stair-stepping on up. We had some resistance that we had, these levels right here we're watching. We found some resistance around 15, and then we popped through, and then literally took us 2 days after we broke through that $15 level. It took us 2 days to hit like $20 or to hit, back up to these levels right here, just shy of $20, and then gapping up further past that level. So now the question is going to be, can we continue to hold over 20? If we can do that, that's a really good sign for LCA. I am bullish on this stock long term. So I bought some shares. I was buying shares down here. I bought some shares under 12, and I'm just setting that aside, and it's paying off awesome. It's funny, the past couple of weeks, I haven't checked the percentage returns in my longer term portfolio, but it's like the percentage returns are matching what I have right now in the shorter term portfolio with the longer term. And the short term is more aggressive, but I'm also fairly cautious on a lot of stuff that I do. I have a pretty set risk management style on this portfolio. But the longer term portfolio has been doing awesome. With FSR, we have LCA doing well. So a bunch of PIC, a lot of stocks in there that are doing really awesome. So that's great. Great stuff going on there. In terms of SPACs this week, there's a lot of one. There's a lot. There's a lot. It really could be take your pick upon which one you like the most. A lot of them are doing great. I personally like AMCI. I think this one will get a lot more attention this week and make a run towards 15, potentially more. If things can get nutty, we'll see. It's one that I personally like. I made a video on this guy today talking about it. I do see some potential here. I know people may have, varying kind of views on this one, but I think we're going to, at least at a minimum, we may see some more hype along this one. And so hype, price goes up. That's kind of what you're playing short term, and then long term, it really comes down to the actual company. What do they do? What sector are they in? And are they able to be profitable and things like that? So a bunch of different plays that kind of go into. That's why FSR was one example. FSR was a great play. Honestly, you could have played it multiple different ways. You could swing trade this guy, and then you can also just play it for the long haul. And so it was a stock that I say, hey, this is actually a pretty good long-term play. Although SPACs were hot, we're seeing run-ups, and so we got a nice run from this, these lows here around 1171. We got a nice run towards 18, and then we came down pretty hard. And so this is the opportunity that if you were looking to be a long-term investor, and that's what happened was after this point, after we broke through this bottom support right here, I exited this position in my short-term account and said, hey, this is now a longer-term play where I'm tending to sell it based on technical levels and things like that. It's a longer hold. And so it's played out awesome. I'm not really worrying about all these resistance points and things like that, although I am selling covered calls out ahead of it. So what I'm doing with those is I'm pretty much selling weekly covered calls, and so I'm putting a price out of the money. So this past week, what I did was I set a price of $25, and I sold a covered call at $25. And so what happens is if FSR finishes Friday above $25, I lose my shares. Like I sell my shares. I agree to sell my shares at $25, but I got paid a premium of that option that I sold the option for. I got paid to do so. So I actually ended up making a few extra bucks on top of selling my shares. Now, I set it to a level where I feel comfortable saying if FSR goes nuts this week and hits like $30 or $35, you know what? I'm fine with getting taken 100 shares of my position taken out at that level, because then I'll look to buy dips the next couple of weeks and do the same exact thing again, because that this is getting kind of nutty for a stock that, to be honest with you, they don't have production until 2022. So, you're really kind of, you're kind of investing in something that's not necessarily on the road yet. So, to a degree, right, I loved under 10, but now we're getting up over 20 to 30. If we get over 30, then things, for at least for me, I may start taking some profits, because I feel like I have to take something off the table at that point. It would be a crazy gain, for an entry. My average is in the 11s, to be over, up over, a couple 100% would be nuts in just a couple weeks. So there's that. Workhorse, let's take a look at Workhorse. Another EV play, right? So this is one of those that's been, been in the news a lot. We have the USPS contract. Everyone, has been talking about it. It's one of those stocks that gets a lot of talk, So we came down and I said, hey guys, a good buy range for me, and I didn't take this because I'm waiting on, more, I'm waiting on some more news, and I was in a bunch of other things at the time that, I felt pretty confident in. But a good buy range here is if we drop down below this 17 level, we have a solid support in the just under $15. This range was a prior area of consolidation. I would expect FSR to come down, Workhorse to come down to this range, and I would expect it to bounce. And it did. It did exactly that. You had a couple days you could have grabbed it in this range under 17, and then since then it's been popping up. And then we had a resistance here. We got very close. We had like $30. We had resistance around this level because this is an area that we had a high right here, a wick up, and we had kind of a double top around 31. So this $30 to $31 range is a pretty strong resistance level for Workhorse right now, so I'm not surprised we're seeing some rejection at this level. So now either Workhorse is going to come back on down, we may find support here back in the lower 20s, or Workhorse is going to get some positive news, a positive catalyst, or it will just slowly grind through and break through this level, and then it will break out to the upside, and then from there, things could get crazy yet again as we're hitting, kind of uncharted territory in a sense for Workhorse, breaking out over past highs or prior highs. So, oh yeah, the other thing too, with that said, someone just mentioned the Nio Delivery, right? So with that, so let me just go to my EV watch list because we're talking a lot about EVs. Although I think some of the hype is starting to wear down in the EV space. Nio, right? They have their deliveries, right, for the month of November. Every month they've been releasing press releases about their deliveries. And so we've been seeing awesome numbers, and it seems like that's a catalyst for the next move up. And so now we're going to see what happens here with Nio. Do they have a crazy number that they release for their November deliveries? If that number is good, then this stock could certainly continue to push on to the upside. It's one of those stocks, though, for me, we're seeing a lot more volume, a lot more volatility, right? Okay, so just look back, and it's something that I like to look at too. See these volume bars that we're seeing? The larger the volume bar, don't worry about red or green. The larger the bar, right, we're seeing the more volatility. So this massive red bar right here on the 13th, what do we see? Well, we saw highs of 54 and lows of 40. That's insane volatility intraday. So with this volume, now we're starting to see the volume fade off just a little bit. Now Friday, of course, Friday was a lower volume day. Market was a half day. So there's that holiday weekend, less traders trading in general. So we had that, of course, going for it. So we'll see how things go. But if the volume starts to slowly fade off, wouldn't be surprised to see Nio either slow its progression to the upside or start to consolidate or even pull back a little bit. And I like Nio. I think this is going to be a stock that hits over $100 in the next year or 2 years. So for me, bought some shares in the long-term portfolio, and I'm not going to worry about it because I really believe this stock will be over $100. So for me to be buying it right now, if I have some more cash available and it dips, I'll buy more. Right? That's just kind of my thesis on Nio personally right now. So we'll see. We got I think $60 could be the next target in terms of where it's going. Also, some rumblings for FSR that they're gonna start getting some more coverage by firms that put out price targets and things like that. So if we start seeing more coverage and we start seeing some bigger names talking about FSR, bringing more attention to it, well, that's probably also going to help send this thing to the upside. I think there's a recent price target of $26 for FSR. So we saw that, and then look at the stock. It broke out of this little downtrend, and it made a massive move from hitting lows of $16.73 to popping to over $21 in one day. I mean, that's some crazy volume, but I believe some of that was also sparked by that new price target. And it seems like in this current market that we're sitting in, whenever we have a firm drop a price target on a stock, it seems as if the stock tries to get there as fast as possible. So for Nio, and even for FSR, for example, right? We see some price targets dropped, and it seems like within a couple days, a couple weeks max, it hits the price target. And then there's a new one that's even higher, and it's like, okay, keeps going. So at some point, that does you should see some pullbacks at some point, but we'll see what happens. Let's see. How do we feel about IDEX? I know people who like IDEX a lot. I'm not a big fan. Again, I just personally, based on my prior research into them, but that was also done a few months back. So I personally haven't done enough lately. The reason why is that it's up too much for me to be interested. So for me to be interested in this stock, it's up a lot lately. So I'm not a huge fan. If it does come back down towards $2, maybe I get a little bit interested and see for a support buy type of idea. But that's at least my take on that. I don't know enough about it to give you honest, hey, like this is going to the moon. There's people who've done a lot more research than me who feel more comfortable in it. So I do trust some people who have done more research and are bullish on IDEX. But I liked it down here. Like I said before, I loved it down here around $1. Under $1 was insane. With EV boom, right? I loved it there. But now, do I like it that much? No, you're paying a lot more for the stock, in my opinion. Maybe it has a lot more room, but that's that. TSNP. Take a look at this guy. Let's see. This thing has been absolutely moving on up to the upside. So this is nuts. This guy is, what is this? This company, Delivery of Construction Materials. So this is like a pure penny play, right? This is an OTC, I would imagine, too. So I don't know. Again, it's the same thing for me, right? We had this kind of flag break right here. So around 2 cents was a better buy, right? Under 3 cents was a better buy. Now you're paying a premium. And so if you're not comfortable with the risk and you're not comfortable with buying this thing up here and potentially seeing it drop down to, sub 5 cents, I wouldn't be buying. So if you know more, if you have more research into it, then yes. But for me, it's not something that I am interested in. SRAC. Another SPAC play. So like I was saying, take your pick on a SPAC that you like personally, and let me know. And really, if you really believe in it and it's starting to get more volume, of course, watch the volume on Monday. But their SPACs are back, right? So we're seeing more and more SPACs popping up on our radars, and we're seeing them start to move. So we saw a lot of these SPACs, they took a hit. Whether that was bad press, there was a lot of stuff on CNBC. You had Kramer talking about these things, and people got a little nervous. And I think there was also a lot of manipulation being done as well. Because at the end of the day, it evened the playing field between the big boys and those retail traders like us that could get involved in these companies, from such a low price, right? So, that's what we really kind of been seeing. And now we're seeing, them getting hot again. So this one finishing here at this, it hit a high of 1384. So let's see if it can break 14. Ideally, there's some support here. Would be this gap. Many times these gaps like to get filled. Now we may be seeing a further extension on up, so that may not happen. But if we do come back down, there may be some support here on this 1240. And if we do drop below that, maybe around 1175 or 1180 or so could be another area to be buying some. Personally, take your pick on what you really kind of see more value in terms of a SPAC play. And give it a shot, I think. I wouldn't be going in huge, but you can give it a shot. They're doing pretty well. And so they'll do good until the strategy is going to work until it doesn't work. And so it's all about acting on that as soon as possible. And so I think there's still a bunch of them. I think we are still fairly early. Now, CIIC is one that we can see this example kind of playing out, right? CIIC was one that we were, if we were talking about it more last week, right? This is the kind of idea that I'm talking about here. So we're looking at for AMCI, right? For SRAC, for example, we're looking at this stage in the move. Now, could those stocks not move as much? Certainly, they may come right back down from where they are. But we're looking at this stage, and so if we are seeing some more hype, and if we see a lot more volume pouring in, if you start to see more volume coming in on a given day, that's generally a good sign. Then if you can catch that at the beginning, that's awesome. So compare the volume in the pre-market the past couple of days to kind of pre-market on Monday. Now, of course, Monday pre-market is going to be different from last week, holiday week, so it's different. But understand, if the volume is significantly more pre-market hours, that could signal a pretty big move for the day. So why I'm thinking this thing popped from $10, right? And we had first day popping towards 11. The next day it's over 13. The day after that we're gapping up. We're almost hitting 20. Pull back, right? We pull back. Okay, found support here. Pop. So that's what I think we have potential in, and that's why I like some of these SPAC plays. And so I think we can catch some type of move, not necessarily this much, but if we can get some sort of move towards 20, towards 15, 20 with a lot of these plays, there will be some opportunities, I think, this week for sure. So that's that. And for those who are jumping on in the for those who are jumping in the chat, if you guys would not mind smashing the thumbs up button, I really appreciate we get more ideas. And those also who are just throwing out ticker symbols and stuff and no ideas, then you're probably not. I'm not going to even bother with some of that stuff. So if you if you throw out some good ideas, if you start saying stupid stuff and you just keep spamming the chat, either you're not going to get that answered, or I'm going to have to block you. So I just can't. I'm not gonna bother with that stuff. So it just kind of clutters things. It's not the point of what we're trying to do here. Let's see. Psth is one for sure. This is one that's getting a lot of attention. Let's see. Psth is one that we are waiting. I believe we're still waiting on the merger, right? On who they're looking to merge with, right? But it's getting a lot of attention. So this is one that I think we'll offer if we get some crazy or we get some big name that they're looking to merge with. Then boom, this thing could go big. So people are talking about potentially let's say like a Robinhood or something like that, Airbnb, who knows? We'll see, right? I think Airbnb, I forget, Robinhood. There's a bunch of other potential kind of ideas being tossed around. So this is one that people are watching for sure as a potential SPAC play to catch it, get it now before you can before catching the big move. So like you see with a lot of SPACs, when the initial company that they're looking to merge with is announced, all of a sudden, boom, the thing spikes. And so you can catch that initial spike. So we'll see. Let's keep going down through. Let's see. Rave. I'll look at Rave. Let's take a look at Rave, and we will see what happens from here. Rave restaurant. So in terms of Rave, what I like with Rave is it's a meal delivery. It's kind of like in that food delivery kind of category. Now that's the idea. And so with shutdowns, things like that. So the idea here with Rave, it's like similar to the WTRH play, similar to APR and Blue Apron, right? Where it likes to move with some of those tickers, and so this is one of those where ideally an entry, under 70 cents is best. That's your best shot for an entry. If you can't, right, you had a chance to catch some of this move. Now it's coming back down for a dip, so we'll see if it does dip further come Monday, and that's what I'm going to be watching for. Personally, I was in Rave this past week. I took some off in the spike, and then I still had some, and then I sold out just to clean things up because I'm in WTRH, but if Rave does come down a little bit more, I'll be more interested in Rave. I would like to see it get back above $1 and then hold above that $1 level. Ideally, that's what I want to see with that. So let's see. Let me go back on through. Let's take a look at BYND. BYND. Changed it up because for those who are new who don't know what I generally like to trade, I generally trade small caps, penny stock stuff. I just see, on a shorter term time scale, I'm seeing a lot more potential upside, right, than I do with, let's say an Apple or BYND. This is probably more of a longer term play for me. But what we had here is that we had this support around this 120, low 120s. We came down to that level pretty nicely and then held up beautifully. So we're recovering to the upside, and things are looking good. So now the next level looks like we got to pop this 140, this 150. Over those levels, we can resume back to the upside. But it's looking pretty good. I honestly like what we're seeing for BYND. I think that 150-ish is going to be probably the next level. 148 to 150 will be the next kind of area to kind of pierce through, in my opinion. Let's see. To 200, it definitely can get there, I think, for sure. Apple, I was looking at Apple recently, so let me look at this. I believe I have some lines. So, okay, here we go. So what we're looking at with Apple is we have an uptrending support. Now we even have a higher low being put in. So Apple is getting to a point right now where it's looking really solid. I like this as a pretty good trade if you're looking to trade this on a short-term time scale, or just as a spot to be buying for a longer-term hold. I think it's a decent spot, obviously, as close to this trend line as you can get. As close to $100 as you can get is best, in my opinion, but it's looking pretty good. We got to break back above this 121 and then above this 125, and then things can get nice, and then we can take a shot back to these highs. So that's what I'd be looking at right there. TSCRF. Let's take a look. TSCRF. Score Media and Gaming. This is actually looking really good. So it did pretty well on Friday. So we had some consolidation here right around this 50 cent level, and it's popping up. It's not something that I personally would be playing on like a swing trade idea. So most of the stuff that I look at is personally, right, I look for swing trade entries, and then if I have to take a day trade because there's news or because it starts running up when I take my trade, then I take the day trade. So I have no problem taking the day trades, but it's generally swing-based focused and kind of catching the trend or catching the idea in the market early. And so, sometimes you catch it a little bit late, or you'll catch it, kind of while it's happening. You got to take profits, and so there's that. But I just found for me, what works best for me is situating myself in some stuff, swing trading things before we see catalysts, before we see some stuff. So this is something that personally I would have loved it back here. But if we can get up and stay above $1 and hold above $1, this looks like it has a lot of potential. So I would like to see $1 developing as the new support. So we'll see. We may be seeing some crazy volatility as we had a lot of attention on this one, but it's one that definitely you want to be watching for sure to hold that $1. $1 is generally a natural area of resistance in stocks that are below $1. You'll see a lot of resistance around that level. Thoughts on Pfizer? So PFE. Let's take a look at PFE. I like it. The only problem for me is that I'm just personally here's my chart at least. I looked at it right. So my only thing is, I think on the 10th or the 12th or something like that, we have the 18th. I forget these dates right from. I have it written down somewhere. But we should have the meeting, right, with the FDA. So with to approve the authorization, right, the emergency use authorization that we're looking at for the vaccine. The only problem that I have with this is that if there's bad news, this is going to come down hard, in my opinion, right? So I don't want to have to deal with that. So personally, for me, I'm probably going to stay away. If I take something, it'll be more of a lottery pick. It'll be like a lottery option play. But if we can break above this, it's not going to move a ton. So PFE is not going to move a ton unless I think we get that vaccine news that all of a sudden it's like first try, let's go, it's approved, and let's run. Then this thing could probably rip. So this thing could go a lot further than this 42 potentially. But for now, under 37.50 looks like a decent entry in my opinion. If you're looking to try to grab it, if it did break this 38 and hold on this 38, it's going to probably get some more legs to the upside. So the only risk here is that you're running, is okay. Things looking good for the vaccine right now, but if they don't pan out as kind of planned, you run the risk of taking a loss on an option trade, or if it's shares. If you're buying shares, it's one thing. So personally, maybe I'll buy shares. If I really wanted to just grab something for fun. You're not gonna make $3 off your shares. $3 or $4 per share. Maybe you get some crazy move after that, but options are probably where you make the most money here. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. If you are tuning in, make sure to hit the thumbs up button for those of you guys who are doing so. Should I be concerned ATX has 2 employees? So you see a lot of that stuff with a lot of these plays, a lot of these companies. And a lot of information is not widely available. I wouldn't be too concerned. We're playing a bottom swing catalyst. It's not something that I would say, hey, put your entire account in. ATX is one of those. We're looking for a COVID emergency use authorization for their antibody test. And so we had some positive news. This news that we got, if you were to go back and look at their last couple press releases, this is positive news. That's setting the stage for getting this approved and for them, moving forward into 2021 is what they really ultimately want to be doing in terms of a widespread distribution of this test. And so they're waiting on the emergency use authorization. So I'm hoping December we get that. It's still very valuable to have an antibody test to the caliber that they do. So I'm not concerned. It's something that, okay, we're under 190 is a solid place to have some shares. And it has a lot of range. So if this thing does get what we're expecting, we're looking at a couple dollar potential upside, not just a couple cent potential upside. So it's not something that, hey, load the boat, be careful with what you're going in, and understand your risk, understand that, hey, we're waiting on a catalyst. And with a lot of these catalysts, there's no guarantee that they're positive, right? For the vaccine, for this, getting this emergency use authorization. If they don't go as planned, there's the risk, right? But for me, right, a bottom play like this, how much more downside risk does it have? Look at the weekly chart, right? Upside, we have tons of upside risk based on the chart. Downside risk, 20, 30 cents, is our downside risk based on the chart. Now, it could go, of course, below, right? We understand if there's bad news, it could go below. But the last press release leads me to believe that there is good news coming. That's my take on that. I know someone mentioned BOXL, online learning, online education play, under 150. I still like. It's still being kind of smushed and compressed here by this 50 SMA. So look where it's kind of trading right now. We have a range. We have this 129, 130. Between that level and this 155, this is where we're at. We're in this range. And so we're putting in higher lows, so we're starting to uptrend, it looks like, which is good. And we're either waiting for a press release. If they drop a press release, this stock will probably spike and then eventually come back down. Or we'll just get more people flowing into this play as we see more shutdowns and things like that. For the near term, going into the winter months, as it's an online learning play, and it has done well in the past when we've seen, kind of news and those types of stocks running on up. Zoom was one of those plays I liked. BOXL is another one of those that's sitting at a pretty good risk reward based on the chart. You look left, tons of range. It's sitting at a pretty nice support level. Wouldn't want to hold this thing under 130 or so, but understand that you're looking to risk 20 cents to the downside for a potential 50 plus cent upside. So I like that risk reward that you're seeing right there on BOXL. ASTC. And that's the thing too, with a lot of these companies, if we look at, this is looking really nice. So ASTC is not making a nice little bottom. So we had a bottom here at 160-ish, put in a little higher low, 170. Now we're rounding the corner and we're starting to make an uptrend. So now it's like $2. We break $2, Then I would look for a magnet towards this 200 SMA, which is at 232, so maybe 225. It has some resistance there. So we break 2, look for 225 next, and then we'll see if we can go from there. This could go, especially if there's news. If they drop some news, this thing can go a lot further. Chart looks really good. I like that chart, in terms of risk reward. Of course, if you, buying it now, yeah, okay, you're running a little higher risk than if you bought it at like 170, yes. But you can definitely catch some of the move. So looking like a bullish move on that, for sure. I am using Webull for those who are asking. I am using Webull. Link down below to get 4 free stocks. That expires, I think, tomorrow, from what I'm told. And then we'll see if they if they email me and say, hey, now we're doing 5 free stocks. It seems like every month they're just upping the ante. But I feel like at some point they're going to probably, they're going to cool off on their promotions. But if you don't have Webull, if you want to grab, it's free stocks. It's literally free money. You get 2 free stocks when you sign up, and then you deposit $100. You get 2 more, which are actually valued at higher value. So it's pretty good. TTCF, this one is actually one that I bought in a long-term portfolio after last week's, or 2 weeks ago, we went live. And yes, so it's holding up at that 200 SMA. So it's holding up in that low 15 level. We have a support, line. It's just a rough area, but it's holding up pretty well. So either we drop down. I don't know how much further we can drop down, and the risk down to the downside is a couple bucks, in my opinion. For the longevity of this play, I think this is more of a longer term play. So for me, I bought it in the long-term portfolio. I have some shares here, and if it makes a nice reversal back towards, $20, that's awesome. But I'm probably not going to take profits until this thing, goes a lot further, or I look further into it, come a year from now, and say, hey, I made 100%. I'm going to take profits, or I like it. I still like it. I'm going to hold. So I like it where it's at. I like where it's at. It's sitting at support, so it seems like it's a pretty good spot, at least for me. Let's see what else. Yeah, it's the thing with Webull is that they've just been really upping things into the holiday season. So I know people who jumped in and got 3 free stocks, or I only got 4 free stock, 2 free stocks. I know I feel bad, but I would tell you right now, to be honest, they're saying that they're dropping more free stocks, but they are honestly you're probably getting the lower end of the level. So you're getting 4 free stocks, but you're probably getting towards the lower end. Whereas I feel like months back, you saw more people that were getting higher valued free stocks. I don't know, just my take. I'm sure that they have it in line and whatever they're doing. So this one, not much chart history, but volatility. So right now it's a pretty good spot for VGAC. I would buying these plays, buying these different SPAC plays, right? It's this VG acquisition. Buying these plays as close to 10 as possible is a pretty solid entry. So I like those as close to 10 as you can get them. That's that. You guys, please, there should be no reason for anyone to start going back and forth in the chat. Going back and forth off good ideas is one thing, but there's really just no reason for people to start spamming stuff and yelling back and forth. Honestly, guys, it just, at the end of the day, what are you gaining from that? What are you gaining? Okay, Upwork. Let's take a look at Upwork. All right, so this thing has found some resistance around this 66 level. Now it's come back. So the question is going to be, can it hold up around 34, 33? It has some of these bottoms here around those levels, and we have a high here. So around this 33 is probably a support level that I'm watching, but it looks like it may be trying to make a flag. So what you also want to watch, that you can watch this as well. So look at this trend line. Draw this little trend line in now. It's only 3 candles, so we don't have too much to look at. We can look at a 4-hour chart and see if this kind of confirms our ideas. So when we kind of have highs like that, connect a couple tops. So we kind of have it pretty nicely. Connect some of these tops and now break out above that downtrend. And if we can hold above this line and pop back to the upside to make a new high, that's a bullish move. That's generally what we call a bull flag. So you have a kind of your pull. This is not a perfect pull, but we kind of see it multiple times. So you have your pull of the flag, then you kind of consolidate in a flag shape, and then you break out for the next leg. Then you have a kind of a flag, and they can come in all different shapes, sizes, and it could be, sometimes the flags are more uptrending, sometimes they're more downtrending, sometimes they're more horizontal. It really depends. It's always going to be different. And then you make your next pull up, and so you're kind of seeing that here with Upwork. So that's what we're looking at least lately on Upwork. So it looks decent. Let's see. Let's take a look at Kern. 2 minutes. 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 Okay, so Kern, we are looking at, this is one of those weed plays, right? So this is one of those stocks I'm definitely watching into this week. Personally, I have a bunch of other ones that I'm in, but if I was to be picking a different weed play or one that I may be looking at that may be a little bit less found than some other the bigger names, the ACBs, the Tilrays. I know a lot of people talk about SNDL, CGC as well. Kern could be one of those that is lesser known. And look at Kern. I mean, we're sitting here at a pretty low area. Okay, we hit down towards $2, and so we had a 250. We came up, popped up, fell back to 250. Now we're popping back up. So the question is, can we get over 4, hold over 4, and then break back over these highs? Pushing around $5 will be the next level of resistance, it looks like, for Kern. We break over 5 on Kern, and then we have some room. I think this thing can get towards that 200 SMA towards 619, 620 could be a potential area to watch as well. So that's going to be interesting to watch on Kern for sure. APXT, let's see. LCA we talked about a little bit, but I like it. It's got to hold over that $19-20. If it holds that level as new support, that's looking good. So I like that one. APXT, right? APXT is another one people have been talking about, SPAC play, right? So this thing is making a move. It hit 15, so that's kind of like my first shot, is like first price target or first area to take some profits on a lot of these SPAC plays if they start going like this. So it could, of course, keep going. We looked at CIIC. It kept going towards 33, right? So could this one keep going? Yes. But you just hit 15, so I wouldn't be surprised for a pullback. And we have this pretty big gap from 13.73 towards 11.25. So if this gap gets filled, that could be a better entry down there if it does dip. If it doesn't dip, then this thing makes a run probably towards $20, in my opinion, if it had to go to if it was starting to go to like more whole round numbers, every $5 or so, every $5 could be a pretty good area of resistance to watch. You're really just playing a lot of this stuff off of hype for right now, because whether you believe in it or not, it doesn't really matter. When you get the volume like this, you're seeing a lot more hype that's factoring in as well. So let's see. If you had to choose one SPAC, it would be LCA, but I've already been in LCA. So I mean, like right now, I like AMCI for like this week. If I had to pick, and this is like my top watch for the beginning of the week. If I had to pick, but like in terms of one that I'm in for the long haul, I bought up LCA on these dips, and I'm still holding it, and I'm not going to sell this one anytime soon. So that's my favorite, probably in terms of the risk reward right now. I just like LCA. I still like it. Based on my position and things like that. Other ones I'm sure will do better, but I just like this one the most that I'm in. Because I think this one can still keep going. FSR is up so much. This was my favorite play a couple months back, but it's up so much that I'm not a huge fan of saying, hey, like buy FSR now. Like I don't think that's the best entry. Maybe it still goes, but personally, if you have a lower average, then I would just hold. Or start taking some profits if you're in it. If you're not looking to hold for the long term. PLTR is one that we've been watching. Let's take a look at the 4-hour chart. It's definitely something that I think can come down. It may come down ideally towards this trend line. So the mid-20s would be a better spot, in my opinion. If it drops down to like 23, that would be an awesome entry. But it can certainly keep going. There's no one saying it can't. Just watch the volume. So we saw some crazy volume on PLTR even to start the day on Friday, right? So if the volume starts to fade out, this thing may pull back. So that's just something to watch. So I have this uptrend developing right here towards 23. Of course, as time goes on, it could hit this uptrend towards 25. If it breaks below that level, then look for some of these bottom kind of reversals, so around 18. If it does fall below there, maybe towards like 14 or 15, could be a better spot if it does come down that far. I don't know if it will, but if it does, that's some areas I'm watching to the downside. I do kind of like this one for a longer term play, but it's just, buying the dips, buying the red days is your best bet for, buying and building out a nice larger term position. So CCL is Carnival Cruise. It's one of those that let's take a look, right? CCL, Carnival, look at the daily chart. So it's just starting to push up, and we're seeing that now a lot of these kind of recovery stocks are starting to make their move. So it's not a terrible time to start, just building out some positions if you wanted to. If you already had some, that's one thing, to building out some longer term swing positions in some Carnivals, some American Airlines, things like that. As this vaccine now, good news, if this gets approved, the Pfizer vaccine, everything goes good, these stocks, we'll see them start to recover a lot, and they'll start to continue to move back on up. Overall markets are up too, right? So really quick, let's go back and look at SPY for those who missed the beginning of the stream. So look at the SPY. So to me, SPY looks very bullish. Why do I say that? Well, because we have this top line resistance up here. If I can go to the 4-hour chart, you probably can see it a little bit better. So we have this top line resistance at this 365. And so we have an uptrending support being put in right here, higher lows, which is a very bullish sign. So to me, this signals a breakout above this level. That's what it signals to me. But it could, of course, we're literally sitting at resistance, so it could come right back down. So we'll have to see what happens this week. If it does fall below further. Technicals on SPY, technicals on like looking at these big indexes, I'm not a huge fan of, because it, ultimately there's so much news that could run these things the opposite way on, with the tweet, in seconds, in minutes, it really depends. So it's not like technicals are a huge driving factor. In my opinion, with a lot of these, with SPY and stuff, more like individual stocks, yes, I find that to be a little more helpful. But at least that's what I'm watching. It looks very bullish to me, especially if you break out above 365. It looks very bullish. So let's see that. GPS. GPS is, okay, this actually doesn't look too bad. Because it does seem like it's sitting at the support. So this could be a good dip buy. So if you're looking to pick something up, where we, you can draw your support lines or draw your trend lines however you want, but it's coming back on a dip, and you can even draw a trend line in a trend line. So if I was to take a trend line from these levels, we're like right at support. So this is looking really good for a dip buy entry on GPS. That looks pretty good. After this pretty hard sell-off, I like where it's at personally for a bounce play. So we'll see. Let's go back up and see what I have missed. ICNAF, weed stock, massive potential, new equipment to do pre-rolls that are supplying. Okay, that looks good. ICNAF. Let's take a look at that. That's the thing too with a lot of these weed plays. Don't just the key is here, and it's not just, I'm sure people will drop ideas, so if you're looking in the chat, awesome. For those who are giving ideas, like, that's awesome. But the thing is too, like, if you can find a sector like this, and it goes for honestly any sector that gets hot, you find the sector that you like, right, that's hot, and then you look for what hasn't been found that has ties to that sector. So this could be one of those stocks that, we're starting to see some more volume, so it seems like it's starting to get found, right, lately in the uptrend, right? But that being said, still, this one could be a stock that can go a lot further. I don't know the float and things like that, but this stock could certainly go, for, potentially 50 to 100% gains, where, you may see like ACB or SNDL, one of those kind of more, I guess, widely known or talked about names that most people talk about. Those may go, less in terms of percentages, or those may go sooner, and so you can't catch the full move, or you may be able to catch a bigger move on some of these other kind of lesser known plays. So those are some good ideas for sure. Let me keep going down through. FTF, Fuel Tech. So we're kind of flagging, what it looks like is we're kind of flagging on a FTEK. So I would like to see it hold up around $5 if it can. That would be nice. It would be putting in kind of a higher low, and so we're looking for a bigger move up. But we're flagging. So I wouldn't want to see this thing dropping below 430, and I'd like to see it hold 5 and start making some potentially newer highs, or pop back above and break these highs. So it's not something that I'm a huge fan of, but as long as because of the risk right now, you have multiple dollar downside risk, and based off the chart. Now, will it come down that far? Maybe not. Probably not. I don't know. But that's my take. So I'm not a huge fan of playing it up here. But if you have a pretty nice stop or mental stop, if you're willing to kind of respect your mental stops or a hard stop in place, then you should be able to kind of outline a decent idea where, hey, I'm not holding this thing below this 425 or something like that, and I want to see this thing making higher lows and put in higher lows and make a push up. If it can't, then I get out, and that's it. And you risk 70 cents to the downside or something like that for a potential multiple dollar gain, as this thing could break out over new highs and make a run towards, let's say, $10. So that could be a solid trade too. Let's see. NGA. Northern Genesis. This is another one that's been popping up. So I think under 15 looks like for some of these SPAC plays could be good. So buying the dips I think could be a good play. I don't know, with all these ideas and stuff. I wish I could know more about all these companies, but I just don't sometimes. So I haven't followed this one too closely. I've just seen the chart maybe once or twice. So ideally I would love to get buying these dips, but under 15 is probably a decent entry if this thing comes back towards 10 again. As close to $10 as you can get is your best shot for a lot of these SPAC plays. Let's see. Thcb, Tuscan Holdings. So yeah, I think we talked about this one, I think either at last live or something like that, or maybe even earlier today. I forget. I'm already losing my mind. So yeah, this thing again, same thing. It didn't hit 15, so I think 15 would be a good first target. We kind of are putting in a higher low, so it's dipping right now, which is a decent time. At least based on this chart, it dipped from where the highs were, so it's got a lot of volatility though. So you can play these for volatile moves, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. Pkkff, Canadian fintech company working in China, reported huge earnings, mass potential OTC now, but working towards the NASDAQ listing. Pkkff. Let's take a look at this bad boy. Let's pull up the daily. This looks like it's making some nice moves. So this is actually an example like we just saw with Psth, right? FTEK. We saw the move up, right? There's some risk to the downside, right? But what we saw was we kind of had a flag. So you want to see higher lows being put in, and then you want to kind of see this thing kind of getting to a point, and then either you have a stop below here, or you have you're looking to ride this thing up, and it breaks back above, the prior highs, and you see a further breakout. So I love these charts, whether you're looking at this like on a 1 day, 1 minute, a 5 minute chart, or just a daily chart, where you have a big move up, you come back down, you develop some support, you put in higher lows, eventually there's a catalyst that's driving it, or you start moving it back on up, and then you break out above the prior highs, and then there you go. So you're moving back to the upside. That looks pretty good. So that's a beautiful chart, right? Obviously, if you can find these plays, like right here, there's a bunch of them nowadays, right, that ran up a lot, that are kind of sitting in this consolidation phase. That's a decent idea for a trade too. So, it really comes down to just kind of putting yourself in a lot of positions and just understanding that, hey, like, you don't have, I'm personally myself in more than I want to be, but again, I have more weight in certain sectors and things like that. So I kind of know what I'm doing, and I kind of at least I'm watching things closely. But a lot of things that I wanted to cut on Friday, right? For example, like this is like one where, let's say if you enter back in here and you're just waiting, you entered like around $1, you're waiting. It hasn't dropped below your stop, so you can't cut it based on your original trade plan, and you still like it. So it's like, for me, I'm in a lot of trades where I feel like I'm in this position where I'm sitting right in here, where it hasn't made its move. I think it has a lot more potential, but I'm just going to be patient and not, I'm not going to cut myself off too early, So I still like a lot. Like, for example, MARA is one of those where it's not exactly this chart setup, but the idea is similar, where I still like Bitcoin, right? This stock correlates with Bitcoin. So Bitcoin goes up, this stock goes up. So I had been in since an average of $2.51, which is awesome. So I made plenty of money on this stock last week, and the week before. But I scaled out and I left 100 shares. So now I'm riding 100 shares. And if Bitcoin breaks out over 20K, so like this is one where I could free up, $400 to $500 of cash if I wanted to. And it would be great, maybe short term. But then at the end of the day, this is still in my plan. Like, I still see Bitcoin pushing up. And while we're speaking, I think Bitcoin is making, a little bit of a push up. And so Bitcoin breaks out, this is going to go nuts. I think this has a shot towards $10. And so I can make, off of just these 100 shares, I can make another $500 off these shares. So it's not something that I want to sell. I just, so there's a lot of opportunity, I feel like, with a lot of these things. FUNFF, online gambling in Canada and US. This is big. That's actually, I love that. I love that sector right now. That's why LCA, I'm a big fan of. FUNFF. So this thing has been popping up again. It's trying to consolidate. We're seeing more volume coming in. We're seeing kind of more volatility. But again, this is one of those where if you know how to play some of these stocks, some of these types of like OTC plays and things like that, you don't go in with like, I would never play like, for example, this stock with the same size that I'm playing, like, I don't know, let's just say like MARA, like ADTX or something like that I'm in like one of my more favorable positions right now. I would never play the same size here, but with a play like this, you have so much more potential. So I kind of view these as like sub-option plays, where like not necessarily OTC plays sometimes. Like I'm actually in one for Bitcoin right now. We're not necessarily that like, hey, like it's the type of same play as an option where it's going to expire worthless, but the risk is a little bit higher. And so it depends upon how people know how to trade them better than I do. But, with a higher risk, you don't go in as big, but you can still make a higher reward. So like, let's say that this thing can run 100, 200%. You make 100, 200%. That's awesome on a trade. You're looking for a higher price target, but you're also not putting in as much. So there's ways to manage things. So there's that. I'm trying to catch back up. CIIC. Let's see. This is one that I don't know. I mean, let's see if it holds up around this $23 because we have a couple bottom wicks right here towards $23.50. If it can hold up, awesome. If it can't, then it's going to probably come down. I wouldn't be surprised. We saw a crazy move. So we're trying to catch some of the next SPAC plays that are in this early stage, catch some of this move. That's the idea, at least as of right now. We'll see. Let's see. What else are we looking at? I'm sorry if I'm missing a couple things, but there is a decent amount of stuff in the chat. So I'm gonna probably have to do it at some point, and like I'll try to fix this for next time. Is like some of the stuff like I'm gonna have to see what I want to do because like I've noticed people have been starting to spam stuff in the chat, which like it's just like it just defeats the point of having it. So I don't want to like take it away. Obviously, it's not what I'm gonna do, but I'll see what I can do if I can turn to limit some of the spam because it's just not beneficial to anyone here. So HYLN putting in higher lows looking good, but it's got to clear this level right here. It's 27 is becoming an area that it's trying to clear. Let me actually just put in another horizontal line because it's an area that we kind of just can't break. So here's our next level. We got to clear this 27, 28. Then that puts the next leg. HYLN actually, if we go back here, so futures are tech's up, the rest of it's slightly down. Let's go to finviz.com. And so let's go to HYLN. There's a decent amount short. So, that's 12%. 12% of the float is short. At one point, it was like 50-something% that I was seeing, whether that was accurate or not. So when you see a significant 10+%, either 20, 30, 40% short, that can contribute to a pretty big short squeeze. So I think this stock may start to make a bigger move up with that percentage of the float short, starting to diminish. At least if that was accurate from back when I originally was watching this thing, when it was like, 50+%. Like that's kind of ridiculous. But this thing can make a nice recovery. I'm holding this one for a long-term play as well. So, that's at least my take. IDKFF ETF investing in high potential penny stocks at inflection points. That's interesting. NAV is winter value. Many of their holdings recently doubled. That's actually interesting. Where IDKFF as an ETF that invests in those penny stocks at those points. That's cool. Bitcoin is back. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let's go look at some Bitcoin plays. So, and I'm looking, when I look over here, I'm looking at I have my other computer pulled up with the chat. So that's why if I'm looking to the left or like this way, that's because I'm looking at the chat. Look at Bitcoin. I mean, look at it. It's at 18.5 again. I mean, look at this. So, I mean, we saw what I actually did was I bought some more. I had some in my, actually I bought it in Robinhood too, which whether, it's good or bad, I don't know. I bought some. And then I bought some more here actually as well. So I bought some on this dip, which is great because I bought some sub 17,000 on this dip saying, hey, we're going to recover. And we came up, I mean, just think about it. Look at the daily chart. We came up so fast. I mean, we saw a pullback. It's bound to happen. We're going to see pullbacks. It's not just going to be straight up. If things were that easy, it'd be awesome, but they're not. So the question is now, second try. We're getting a second shot at this area. So with a second shot towards these highs, this looks like this is moving pretty quick. So this could happen this week. I would not be surprised to see Bitcoin breaking out to highs this week. So for me, Mara, Riot are my plays. Now I'm already in Mara, but I only have 100 shares. I scaled out my position, but I'm riding 100 shares because when you're in from $2.50, I mean, and you're up and this thing goes over $6, you got to take something off the table, right? I took most of it off the table. But if Bitcoin breaks above and confirms a breakout, I'm probably going to buy some more, whether for day trades or just for some short-term swings. I still see value in those things. So Mara, Riot, DPW has some ties. DPW is up a lot, so I wouldn't be playing that one right now. XNET is one that has some ties. NXTD And even MFH. MFH is a stock. It's, penny play, China penny play, but it's, if it comes down to this trend line, we were watching it last week, I actually added some more, and this thing can make a nice pop tomorrow. So in the rest of the week, as people find it has some ties to crypto, and so that's why I like it. So this thing has a solid support here down in low twos, and I think it's pretty good. It's not really dropping much below this 200 SMA, which we see right here by this orange line lately, so it's holding up. And that's why I like a lot of these Bitcoin plays personally. Would you sell LCA before the merger? I would not. Just personally going to hold that one for a while. I think it has a lot of potential. Look at something like DraftKings, stuff like that. I think, that's my personal. I think it has a lot more potential. 50 plus at some point, and I'm not worried about it right now. But later on, a couple months, couple years, I wouldn't be surprised. Is it all? When did I become interested in stocks? Is all self-taught? So personally, years ago. So it was years back. Honestly, my dad got me into like options and stuff, and then I lost thousands of dollars doing that of like all my savings. I literally had like I don't want to I don't need to like go off what we're going here, but I had like $5 to my name. Like that's it with student loan debt at one point, like significant debt. $5 to my name, and then that's when I decided to kind of like really make a change. And then since then, I've tried a bunch of different things, and then I've kind of settled in recently, the past like 15 plus months, on trading more consistently, swing trading, just longer term investing as well. But also when it comes to my long term investing, it's like long swings. I see it, and so some stuff I hold long term, like super, like I'm not trying to sell that anytime soon. But other stuff. I'm looking to do much better than a 10% per year in that portfolio. If I can do better than 10% per year in my long-term portfolio, I don't really care. Like that will compound if I can consistently do that across, X number of years. I don't really care. That'll be fine. That'll do just fine. This portfolio that I show on the channel that we talk about on the channel when I trade penny stocks and really just short-term swing trades, we try to do a couple 100% per year. That's the goal. Compound that, yeah, that gets nuts, of course. But at some point, there's risk and stuff that you're a little bit less. You're not as kind of crazy. There's more risk tolerance. There's things like that kind of come in line. But the past 15 months, yeah, I've taken some courses and I recommend stuff in my descriptions that I've used myself. But for the most part, it's from those courses, from those experiences, and then a lot of it's just seriously self-learning. It's like this right here. It's like just using one of these things. They're still around. There's just notebooks, pen and paper, pencil and paper, like just writing down. I use a lot of spreadsheets too to log trades and stuff like that. But a lot of it comes down to that stuff. Just learning from the mistakes, learning from the wins, losses, building out watch lists of stocks that run certain sectors. It's a lot of stuff that goes into but you get it over time. It's not like it's when you're starting out, it seems like it's crazy. And by no means am I like some super successful person doing this. But, it takes time. If you're willing to put in some of the work, you'll see the results. And so I've seen from just logging things, journaling, saying, hey, what happened here? Why did this do well? I've been able to use those experiences and do even better on the next trade or on a trade that comes up in the future. So you're putting yourself in a better, position for the future by, taking some time and at least trying to learn and study and do something when it comes to charting and stuff like that. So that's that. I like PLTR long term. As just buy the dips as much as you can. This thing may come back down a little bit more, but I prefer to buy the dips as much as you can. Those who are just tuning in, if you wouldn't mind hitting the thumbs up button. I know over 300 people watching. I know we don't have 300 likes, so I know some people are not hitting the button. So if you wouldn't mind, I appreciate it. It gets more ideas. That's really all it is. We've been hitting, now it's like 100 likes is like a consistency in the stream. So now we got to make for the next level. So can we get 200 likes? I don't know if we can do it tonight. That might be a little too much, but next stream, we're getting towards that 150. Let's see if we can do 150 tonight. If we can do 150 likes, then we'll go for 200 next week. I like PLTR. I'm just personally, I think it's going to have some time to cool off. So I want to see, I'll pull it up. PLTR really quick. And for those, I think I saw someone talking about LCA contracts that they had, calls. I think it looks good as long as LCA pushes and holds above $20 come tomorrow. LCA should do it and should have a nice move, in my opinion. So that's what we'll see. Whoa, we got a nice surge of likes. I appreciate you guys for hitting that like button. So we should hit that 150. Now, 200 is not unreasonable now. So here's PLTR. If we can drop, so PLTR, I like this little trend that we have right here. So to be honest, if it happens in the next 2-3 days, down towards 23 could be a better dip buy. If it happens in like a week or two, down towards 25 could be a better dip buy. Depends. It may just bounce off of here. So it's crazy to see, what's going to happen. If you, for this type of play, buy the red. I would just be buying the red days. And if we get an extensive pullback, have some cash available just to be able to capitalize on an extensive pullback. But I like this play for the long haul. So it would be something that I would buy in my longer term portfolio, stash some away, and not really worry about it too much. So yeah, okay. I look at GPS. I'll pull it up again because I know there's a lot of new people in here, and everyone kind of cycles through. And I know I can't expect everybody to be on here the whole time, right? But here's what we just looked at with GPS. So look at gaps. So look at this beautiful trend line. So we have a broader trend line on the bottom, right, that we've kind of drawn in from back here. Let me zoom out. So we have this broader trend line. So if it does come down, it could come down towards 20. So you risk like $1.50 down, but it's sitting at this other trend line. So we have from points from back in September, we have like 4 points on this trend line. So it's looking solid. So it could be a nice bounce play off of this trend line. If not, it may come down and bounce off this one. So that's my take on Gap, on GPS, on Gap right now, personally. So, what else do we get? Chewy calls earnings the 8th. I don't know. What is let's see what else we got. Chewy, CHWY, right there it is. This thing is popping up. So $75 is your area. You break above $75 and the 8th, right? So they got like a week or so, right? That is a catalyst for a run up. So that's good. So okay, I wouldn't hold through those earnings, right? But we break 75, this thing could get a nice little kick, and it's been popping up. So that's a nice one to watch. LCA, APTX, those are solid. SPEs, look, it was a beautiful play too for those who got it as early as possible. No problem. I mean, GPS actually looks really good. I didn't even know, but until someone mentioned it, it looks really solid. There it is, 160 likes. We have broken that 150. Now we're gonna have to go for 200. So that's now the next stage. BIMI. So those who are just tuning in, who don't necessarily know exactly what I prefer, and I'll talk about some of my positions here as well. And I did at the beginning. So you can always go back and I guess, fast or rewind, or this will stay up on the channel, so you can always go back. I went over my stuff at the beginning, and then we're going into more questions and stuff. I primarily trade a lot of small cap penny stock stuff. For those who you hear, hey, like that's just a scam, it's BS. It's not a scam. You can trade it just like anything else. There's just you have to understand what you're doing, the risk. There's more risk, but there also isn't as much risk as like options if you trade it certain ways. And so you can trade anything however you want. It's just you have to understand. BIMI right here, like for example, I like low risk, high reward plays. So I like penny stocks that are higher risk, but I like buying them in low risk spots, which is really at support. So BIMI has a 170 support and also has a worst case scenario of 150, right? It was at $2 right now, so it's popping up. A bunch of China tickers last week did do pretty well. So this is one to see if China stocks continue this week. This is one to definitely keep on the watch list. It has spike potential. We look at some of these spikes. This company drops news and the stock spikes. It's a lower float stock, so it can do that. And so it's one that I definitely like. Ideally, under 2 would be the better entry. Ideally, under 2. So it did pop up the past couple of days, but what we watch in this one for sure, I didn't take an entry. I think we talked about it last stream. I didn't personally take an entry, but we had, from those who were able to take advantage, you could have grabbed this thing around 180 or so, and you could have, grabbed yourself at least 30 cents to the upside if you did grab some. So that's that. Let me look at, let's take a look at, what do we have? PLTR, 40 calls on the 4th. I mean, that if it happens, if those go well for you, awesome. I'm not saying that I don't like it. I just think that it could definitely pull back. So we'll see what happens. My AEO is doing okay. Let's take a look at AEO. American Eagle. This thing is pushing up, so now we got to break over 19. So that's the thing, break over 19. This thing could get going back towards 20 plus. So that way it looks like it's making a nice recovery, for sure. UAVS. Let's take a look at UAVS. Drone, one of those drone plays that a lot of people made a lot of money on, back here, which is nuts. if you did. So look at UAVS. What we have right now is it's breaking out of this this little kind of consolidation downtrend. So that's good. It looks good. I think we talked about it last stream as well. So we popped up, came back down. We developed that support, and now we're popping back up. So now the question is going to be, can we break back over 315, 320? That'll give us the next leg. And then eventually, if we can break over this $4, that's going to be huge for UAVS, for a nice little move up. I'm not aware of the current catalysts that are driving UAVS right now, so I don't know. But if there are catalysts, I'm sure there are. That could be huge for UAVS. And it seems like you have a solid support down towards $2. So if it does drop, as close to $2 as possible is a pretty solid support for right now. So there's that. Let's see. Going back down, I know I'm missing a bunch of things, but if I Zoom earnings tomorrow at 4:30, thinking it will run after. So Zoom, I have one share left. I had a bunch that I bought a couple weeks back, actually, like a week, 2 weeks back, under 4. So I bought some of these dips. So I had an average at like 395, or 393, something like that. And so Zoom, actually, this isn't updated. Let's look at the 4-hour chart. So Zoom did well. It broke out of this kind of downtrend that we had right here, and so it popped up. And so right now, I don't know, maybe towards $500. We'll see what happens tomorrow. I'm holding one share just for some earnings madness. So if we get some crazy stuff that goes on, if we hit 500 during the day, I might just take my share off. But if it doesn't hit 500 and we kind of just sit or whatever happens, or I make some money somewhere else, and I'm like, hey, let's go for it. Let's see what happens. Then I'll hold my one share through earnings. But again, I don't recommend holding through earnings unless you're playing a lotto size. So I scaled off. I'm not going to lose money on Zoom if Zoom goes back. Even if Zoom goes to $350, I'm not going to lose money on my trade. So that's where I feel like you feel pretty solid about leaving one share to ride. So if things get nutty like last earnings and Zoom goes to like 600 by like the end of the week or whatever, awesome. I make an extra like $120. So cool, But that's kind of my take on Zoom. Not a huge fan of holding through earnings, but it could get it could be the catalyst to drive it. Nio, we have, I believe, delivery update coming soon for the month of November. So that's going to be the next kind of catalyst. People are watching for Nio. Nio is definitely kind of crazy. So it continues to put in higher lows. So it keeps extending on up, which is awesome. But at the same time, like I bought some shares for the long haul. So for Nio, for me, it's unless you're playing options or something like that, that's how you can make a lot more money, or you can also get screwed. For me, it's something that I just bought I think I bought it around like just under $50. The last buy that I just bought. And so, it's something that I say, hey, you know what? In a year, I see the stock being over $100. So why am I going to, miss out by saying I want to get a bigger dip and getting greedy on a bigger dip? Because I like to buy, towards support. I like getting a better deal. So I said, why am I going to do that and wait for like a dip down to like 38 when it may not ever happen, or down towards this trend line when it may not ever happen? I just bought it, and then I'm going to hold my shares and let it ride. And if I have more cash available, I'll buy more if it dips. Like that's it. So that's my take on Nio. But they've been updating every single month on their deliveries. So that's what has been the catalyst for a lot of these little spikes and a lot of these kind of next legs up. We've seen these we've just really been seeing, they have their next delivery numbers and they're awesome. They're up, they're bigger than last month. Things are looking good. It's really going to take, like, let's say all of a sudden November deliveries come in and they're down from the last month. All of a sudden everyone's going to be shocked. Nio probably comes down. That'll be a good dip buy, in my opinion, right? So waiting for that eventually, it's probably going to happen at some point. There's got to be some negative news eventually. But, we'll see. That's my take on Nio. Riot is one of those that I definitely be watching this week, especially with Bitcoin pushing up. Riot for sure. Mara as well. MARA. Those two are awesome. Appreciate you guys. If I missed your comment, I still appreciate you for dropping a comment. MMED. Let's take a look at that. Sometimes I can't get everything right. So MMEDF, I don't know enough about it to tell you the truth about what I think, but it looks like we have a resistance around $2. So break over $2, this thing could get juicy. So that's at least my take. Should I go all in on Tesla? Tesla is my bold prediction on one of these lives. What I said is, where is Tesla? TSLA. I said $600 by the end of the year, and so what we saw with Tesla, if we look at the 4-hour chart, which I was kind of, or let's look at the daily chart. So I had this line right here, this resistance line around this 465. We eventually broke through that, came back down, tested, 490-ish, and then popped back up. We hit 598.78, so if Tesla never hit 600, we hit 598.78, so I was close enough. I bought some shares down in here, anticipating this breakout and a bigger move up. But I think Tesla's still going to, it could go past 600, it could go even 700. I don't know if things stay crazy. I mean, why not, right? This thing has just been absolutely nuts. Although we are seeing a pretty big extension, so I would wait for either a pullback or a consolidation. I have Tesla as a long-term investment too, so I mean, it's not something that I'm looking to sell anytime soon unless you're playing like options or something like that. So, do you have your own program I can join? I don't, and I personally not a huge fan of a lot of that stuff because it gets kind of wishy-washy, and I'm not a huge fan, although I understand, I see the value in doing that stuff. I have just stuff that I've used. So I have resources in the description box that I've used myself that have helped me. And so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. So if I find something that helps me, I drop it in the descriptions, and I leave them in all the descriptions. So like all the videos should have the same description layout for the most part. So check those things out if you're interested. And if you have any questions, ask me in a comment or DM me on Instagram or something. Any questions along those lines of what exactly, I'm talking about or whatever. With whatever length you're questioning or whatever. But that's what I have. We'll see. Tesla valued higher than GM, Ford, Volkswagen, Nissan, Honda combined. Yeah, so recalls could trigger recalls could certainly trigger their dip. We'll see what happens. Ultimately, that's snow. I haven't looked at snow in a while. Beware of Citron news on hot stocks. They like to short. They force stocks to go down from so-called negative. Yeah, they do. And so, and people get scared off by like Citron and the news and whatnot. So that is the thing. Like it's like the thing that I think is funny though is how you hear and I never really thought about it too much, but you hear people who pump or like this person's channel pumps a certain stock or whatever, or they Twitter and whatnot. Twitter's bad, and that stuff can be bad for low floats and stuff. But it's the same thing with like these guys who short. I mean, like they put out these reports, right? Of course, everyone has their when someone goes long, they put an idea as to why. But these companies, they have decent followings, and if they go short, people follow them and they believe it, and they'll short or they'll sell. And so it's the same thing. They load up, they short, and then they release their thing, and so they can potentially take profits on their short position like right after they release their report. You don't know, they might. So it's the same thing. Snow is popping up, so we had this initial pop or wick up here to 320-ish. It's ripping. I wish this trend line held up, but it didn't seem to hold, so we can get rid of that for right now. It's one of those stocks I'm not sure what to really kind of think as of right now. Either we can break further up, or maybe it comes back down. I don't know enough about the company personally, so I can't really say, is this going to 500? This by the end of the next year? I don't know. But I think a support level right here around 300 would be a decent dip buy if it does dip down towards 300. If it can consolidate and push up, maybe it goes for more. But the reason why I say 300 is because we have this kind of high right here around 300. So usually you'll see an area of prior resistance become new support as it kind of comes back down after you break through that level. So that's kind of where that came from at least. Also with SNDL, so that's the other thing too. There are some rumblings of SNDL merger, stuff like that. So yeah, that's another thing too to watch. So people are talking about that. If SNDL has merger news come tomorrow morning, that thing is going $1 plus like nuts. This thing is going to go nuts. So I have SNDL, I have ACB, and I have Tilray. Those are my three like weed stock plays. So SNDL, we got to break 40 cents. We just barely broke above that in after hours on Friday. So we'll see what happens. I'm expecting a gap up. I have some orders set, so we'll see what happens with SNDL. After 40 cents, we got to break 50 cents because that was this wick up right here pre-market hours a couple days ago. We got to break 50 cents. We break 50 cents, then we got to break 60 cents. We break 60 cents, then 85 cents. You break 85, then $1. That's kind of my stair step on SNDL. Maybe there's some other areas in there as well, but why 60 is because we look at the daily chart. The daily chart has a high at 60 there. The 200 SMA is sitting at 60 as well. After that, I think 75 could be an area. Just a nice every 25 cents could be an area as well. So maybe 75 cents could be a spot to watch for sure. But we'll see. SNDL so bought SNDL is 37 cents. Going to sell if it goes to 60 or just hold. What I'm going to do. So here's my plan for SNDL. I'm going to be scaling out of SNDL. The thing with SNDL is that it has a higher kind of upside than like ACB or Tilray, because of like, if we get enough volume and enough hype and enough people in it, this thing can go to $1. And it can be crazy for those who have it from under 40 cents. But at the same time, it could get rejected by 50 cents. So I'm taking profits before those key levels. So like I said, 50 cents is the area of resistance, 60 cents, 75, and then 85 cents. So have those levels in mind. And if we start making moves towards those levels, take some off. I wouldn't be saying take your entire position off at like 50 cents, but scale some out. So for me, some people like to work at it where they scale out half. So they continue to cut their position in half each time. Maybe that works for you. On other people like to scale out in chunks. So let's say I'm in a position, let's say a full position, let's say for me, it's like $1,000. So for me, it's 10% of my account value. So whatever my account value is, it's 10%, is a max position. I'll scale out in maybe thirds, in fifths, and fourths, something like that. If I see a bunch of areas, if it seems very strong, I'll hold a little bit longer, if the volume really comes in. The thing with SNDL and a bunch of these weed plays is that I don't know what's going to happen this week. Will we just see a Monday pre-market pop and then drop and then that's it? Or will we see a continuation through the week? That's going to be the ultimate question. So to be honest, what I'm hoping is that we don't go too red. Like, we're looking at futures right now, slightly red, tech's up, but everything else is a little bit red. If futures are even, if the market's even tomorrow, or if the market's green, that's awesome, because then that should probably be fine for whatever stuff's going to be running up. But if the market has a worse than average day, if that market's down 1%, potentially more, that could hold back a lot of these runs, and people could get scared off by that. So I think pre-market could be a good time for a lot of these stocks. But if futures are down, you may see a pretty big pullback come the market open. So at that point, that could be a good dip buy for the rest of the week, or that could be where we kind of pull back and lose momentum for a lot of plays. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting to watch for sure. That's why I'm watching that for sure. JMIA, let's take a look at JMIA. Now things are getting, what I usually do is I usually kind of like wrap things up at like 8:30 Central Time, so like 9:30 Eastern. I might go a little bit longer just because we got, I think a crazy week coming up. So we'll see. JMIA is nuts. This thing is up a lot, so I would be looking for pullbacks personally. I don't know. Maybe it makes a shot towards $50. $50 will be the next level of like big time resistance, I would think. Similar to like how we're looking at like with Bitcoin, right? We're looking at a high, looking at an all-time high on the chart. Look at Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin, we're sitting at 18.5 right now. We had a 19.6 we just hit. And this is Bitcoin USD. So now we're looking at 19.89, 19.9 on Bitcoin. We get back up there. That's going to be a strong resistance. And we got close and we came back. So look at other stocks the same exact way. Prior highs is going to be one of the strongest areas of resistance that you'll see generally. And of course, everything can be different to some degree, right? ACB doing great, got in at 898. I have an 880 average, I think, on ACB, so that's good. I think that's solid. 16 can't wait to open a Roth IRA, and yeah, awesome. That's the thing is too, like, and I even say it too, to like, if I just knew what I was doing like 2 years earlier, like when I like officially turned like 18 or whatever it was, I don't know. I wish I kind of was into some of this stuff a lot earlier, because it's really, when it comes to investing long term and stuff like that, it's just time is on your side. So the earlier you can get in, the better for those of you who are young who are watching these videos. Also, PIC is one that I like a lot too. So this is up. This broke over 14. The reason why I like it so much is it broke over this 14 high, so I think it has a shot towards $20. And I've done the due diligence on this one like weeks ago. Like, I loved it back here. Like, I was like, oh, this is going to be a beautiful play. And then it came down towards 10, and I bought it. So I have a 10.30 average in my long-term account, and I bought some more at the break of this 14 on Friday. So I'm feeling good. I can't complain. So FSR, let's take a look at FSR right now. I still like FSR, picked to 20. I think PIC is going to $20. That's what I'll probably look to take some profits, at least in the short-term account, and leave the long-term shares just because, I like it. Let's see. We are close to 200 likes. So if you guys would not mind smashing the thumbs up button and we hit 200 likes, that's a record for any live stream I've done. That's a record. So if you wouldn't mind, that'd be awesome. Fisker. So what I'm doing with Fisker is I loaded the boat down to here. So I had an average of like 11 something, and I'm up over 100%. So I'm feeling great on these shares. I'm thinking, and what I've been seeing also is that they may start to get more buy ratings and more companies and more firms covering Psth into the end of the year. So with that, because the more coverage you get, the more attention, the more eyes, the more investors, the more volume, that could pop the price. And we've been seeing a lot of stocks that when they get a new price target, they magnet to that price target. Like Nio has been one that's been perfect, like just magnet towards that price target. FSR is getting to the point where like, hey, they don't have production yet. So to some degree, yes, they had like $1 billion cash upon the completion of the merger, but to some degree, we're going to get to a point where this thing is, it's a little overextended if it continues to push up. So let's see what happens. I'm selling covered calls out ahead of it. So for Psth, for me, last week I sold a $25 covered call. This week I might sell like a 30 or 30 something. We'll see what happens. I'll look at what happens on Monday morning, how we open up, and see what happens. But I like it. I still feel pretty good. I mean, we broke out above these recent highs, above these initial highs at the beginning of the merger. So we can hold above that 20-ish area. That would be a solid play. What about us older folks? Either way, people who are at least if you're looking to invest or you're looking to trade stuff, and you're looking at the end of the day, what I have to sometimes do too is take a step back and it's like I realize I'm young, and not everyone is as young as I am, but at the end of the day, when you step back and look at like achieving a certain percentage return, like my first like real year of trading penny stock was like 567% return, like nuts. If you like legitimately did that year over year, doesn't matter honestly how old you are, like that will compound at a crazy rate. So okay, if you're going at like your average, 7 to 10%, maybe 12% per year overall market rate, that's cool. And if you're young, that would be awesome. You can compound, a small amount of money right now could compound big time for the, you're 50 plus. But if you're just doing even just slightly better than that, if you can get 20%, 25% per year, which is, in my view, not that difficult to do. I think that that's very achievable for a lot of people. And you compound your account at that level, whether you have one that you kind of have, let's say like an IRA, let's say you have like a longer term account that you don't really want to touch, you want to just kind of buy and hold stuff, that's fine. But if you have a more active one that you can compound at a higher rate than 10% per year, that's a pretty big accomplishment in and of itself if you can consistently do that, which I think is very doable. Boom, like you can compound your money extremely quickly. And really what it comes down to is a lot of people just either they get freaked out emotionally and they don't want to, and they're playing with too much money, or they just never kind of put in enough time to kind of learn how stuff works and adapt to the overall market, because the overall market's always going to change, right? We're going to see like right now is an awesome time to get into the markets. An amazing, even better time was back in March, right? Back in March, April, right? But there's always opportunities. Things are always going to change, and so you have to. If you can learn to adapt to that, you can set yourself miles apart, from the average, right? That's why, like, there it is, 200 likes. I appreciate you guys. For liking the video, for liking the stream. That's awesome. That's a record for the channel, for the streams. So now I guess we got to go for like 300, 250, 300 next time. So that's awesome. And we're only going for like an hour and a half, right? So that's pretty good. It's pretty impressive, I think. Let's see. Let's take a look at some other ones. Tattooed Chef, these stocks. Tattooed Chef is one that I like a lot long term, personally. TTCF. It's sitting at support, so it's not getting a lot of attention right now. Personally, we have the EV boom. It really comes down to sector rotation for a lot of these plays. Ultimately, longevity. Understand that like, okay, this stock, if it goes up 10% this year, like that's still pretty good. And I know that's like compared to other stocks, like that stinks, but that's still like a solid. If it can do 10% per year for a couple of years, like that's a beautiful return. Just take a step back and think about that. I think it has more potential than that. But it's sitting at support, so it's sitting right here at this 15. I wouldn't want to see it drop below 15, but at the end of the day, I bought some for the long term, so I would just buy more. If I have cash available, I'll buy more. That's it. So it's sitting right here at support, which I think is fine. I'm not really too concerned if it can make a reversal here off of this level and start trending back to the upside, which it looks like it may be trying to do, then that would be awesome, and I'd like to see that happen. So that's what I want to see for TTCF. I like it, and I know a lot of people like it as well, but that's that. Solar stocks trending, CSIQ past 40. Let's take a look at CSI and then I'll look at FCEL. CSIQ, Canadian Solar, over 44. There he goes. Look at that. So we had this little downtrend break right here that we were looking to break over 40 nicely, and then boom, we got it. So now we hit 45. Question is, can we continue to hold above this level? So I want to see us develop some support here at these prior highs, put in a support right there, and make the next leg up, which looks good. It kind of consolidated for quite some time. It's been making some significant moves the past few months, consolidated, but now it's really starting to potentially rip up for the next leg, which is looking good. FCEL. FCEL, we're going to watch this guy right here. It's making the next leg. So we had the push, came back down, found support here at the 660, put in a higher low the next day at $7. Now we put in another higher low here at 9, and it's looking like it wants to break back above 10 and potentially take a shot at that 1131. So we'll see how these stocks do. What you can also do is come in and draw some sort of trend line. Now it's not going to be, every stock's going to be different. I might want to put one in from like here. Maybe you have to cut a couple. Something like that could be a decent trend line for FCEL. So if it comes back down towards like something, it could be a really good buy, I think. Unless it comes back down and drops low and finds some support down towards like $6. Who knows? That could be the next level. We have a couple wicks up towards like $6. Could be a good area. We have this little gap here around 5 to 6. Around this like 6 to like upper 5. So that's a good one, I think. Rocket RKT. RKT I like, but I also have that's one in the long-term portfolio. This is one of like where you're like your flashy company. It's not you're not looking at like the next EV play, but this one can definitely we have some support here in the mid 17s. So if it comes down, that's a pretty good spot to buy in my opinion. Unless it drops below, then it could get a little interesting to see how far down we do go. So we'll have to see. Are we wanting to watch stimulus here, see how that goes, evictions and things like that, and see how the housing market does, and ultimately that's going to be a decent player, I think, for Rocket. PLG is another one. PLG, I believe I liked this past week, but didn't take a position because I was in enough, and I wanted to get it down a little bit under 2 if I could, so I didn't take it, but I like it. I think this is going to be a solid play. I think it's got a shot at $3, my opinion. I liked it. I just wanted to bet. I wanted a greedier entry. So that's just me. It may be looking to make a pop over this 250 and break out to the upside, which would be awesome if we do get that level. CIIC, I don't know. It's up a lot. So personally, I'm not a huge fan of it right now based on just where it is. If we get a bigger dip, then maybe. But it's trying to hold some support here around 23, 24. If it can hold that, that could be your little kind of reversal dip. If not, I wouldn't be surprised to see it come down towards 20. And that's just kind of, we saw a pretty big extension, hype extension kind of in a sense. So that's that. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the price right now. I like it to kind of cool off. EPXT. This is one that I think is the same thing. It hit 15. Let's see if it can make a run towards 20. If not, it has a lot of gap here to fill to the downside. So I'm not a huge fan unless it kind of push back up and break over this high. Then I think it has a shot towards $20 potentially. Ecor, ECOR. Let's take a look at this guy. This looks pretty good actually. So Ecor is sitting here. We have kind of, putting in higher lows. We have a low down here, 130. We have a 138, and then we have a 144, 145 area. So it looks good. Under 150 looks pretty good for Ecor. And this is one of those plays where it looks like, we can see if we can draw something. You can draw a couple different trend lines. You have that one on the top end of these kind of candles. You can probably draw in one like, right here. We kind of broke out. So you kind of have a bunch of stuff going on here with Ecor. I'd like to see it kind of pop back out of this over 150 would get the party started, I think. So it's close. It's definitely close. And this could be a news type of play if it has a news catalyst or something like that. There's a catalyst driving it. This is a good chart because you're sitting at support. You're sitting at a pretty low level. And then you look to the left and you see range. You see spikes. So if you're ready to play and take profits on those spikes, this is a solid play, I think. So let's see what happens. I appreciate you guys for hitting the thumbs up button. I appreciate you for saying nice things in the chat. For those, if I missed your question, I'm sorry. But appreciate you guys. 2:30 a.m. in the UK. Awesome. I appreciate you tuning in. And that's some dedication right there. OSMT. Moving towards buyout CEOs, previous buyouts. Also Pkkff on the 29th. Okay. Boom, boom, boom. Oh yeah, one other thing too is that I know people are talking about Nikola. I believe, NKLA, I believe the company's CEO the prior CEO, right, Trevor Milton, he's allowed to sell his shares this week. So that's something to watch, and he has a lot of shares. So he could just take a massive dump on the stock price. So I'm not in short. I mean, you could play options. I think they're a little overpriced. So you're paying a pretty high premium for these plays. But if you like to short something, this could be a potential short opportunity for Nikola. AYRO, how high will it go? Well, let's see. AYRO, I personally think it's coming back down. But it's got support here around 750. So if it holds 750, I think it's okay. But if it can't hold 750, I think it's going to come back down towards 650 and then potentially further down. I don't know. I think we're seeing a sector shift. We'll see what happens. Of course, Monday is going to be big. But we'll see what happens. If we see a sector shift, and I think that shift looks like it's shifting towards the marijuana, the weed sector, right? So we're seeing a bunch of those stocks. And that'll kind of transition me into what I'm going to talk about here before we wrap things up soon. So throw out some last ideas in the chat if you have any ideas, questions that you want me to answer really quick, if I can. But what I'm going to do now is dive into kind of like my stuff, what I'm at least in before we wrap things up. So biggest watches for tomorrow, SNDL. SNDL is one of my biggest watches for tomorrow to see what happens. We have a couple areas that I want to see it go to or it hit. So it's got to break 40 cents, which it got very close. I think it'll gap above. Then I want to see it hit 50. If it can break 50 cents, awesome. Then I want to see it go for 60 and then 75 and then 85 cents. Those are my next levels up. But this is in the marijuana weed sector. So Tilray, better chart out of all of these. ACB, SNDL, the Tilrays. I like this one the most personally, based on the chart. So I actually bought some more shares down here. So I like this one a lot. And the question is going to be, though, do we see these stocks taking all the volume come Monday, come Tuesday? If they do, they could see much larger runs. If they don't, if they only kind of run a little bit, or we'll see what happens, and we get a pullback, then a bunch of potentially EV sector, a bunch of China plays, those stocks may still be in play. We've been seeing those have been kind of hot, so we'll see. But this may be the shift, so we're going to have to watch very closely. And then there's ACB that I like as well, chart-wise. It's making a nice extension to the upside. So that's that. Other than that, outside of those plays, here are the other stocks that I'm in on the left-hand side. My favorite ones are probably going to be Mara. I think Mara was an awesome dip buy on Friday if you took it. If you didn't, I'm riding shares, so I was in from a lower average, so I'm just riding the rest of my shares. Bitcoin looking very strong right now after its dip, so we'll have to see. This one I like a lot. So Bitcoin plays, I have some videos on the channel going over some Bitcoin stocks. Take a look at some of those. Those could be really good if you were interested. MFH will be one of those I'm watching for sure. It has some Bitcoin ties, so this one could get a nice little pop next week as well. That's a cheaper stock as well for those looking for those cheap stocks, those penny stock plays. Understand, though, that if you're looking for these plays, you just have to know how to trade them. If you don't know how to trade them, if you're just trying to hold them for the move from $2 to $17 and you don't know what's going on and why they dropped an offering and why you didn't take profits at 4, understand that. If you don't know how that works, I have hopefully some videos here to explain a lot of that stuff beginner-wise, and I'll be making more, of course, in the future. But don't just be buying random penny stocks just thinking that, hey, some guy on the internet told me that it's going up. It may go up 10, 20, 30, 100%, but if you don't take profits, you don't take any of those gains home, right, at the end of the day. There's that. BLU is one that I like as well, under 3 for a better entry. If you can't, I think it's still honestly going to be okay. LTBR is one that I like as well. In this guy, it's making nice higher lows, it's got a nice little kind of rounding up to the upside for LTBR. I like that one a lot. I like some online education plays. I entered into Learn LRN last week. It's kind of sitting at a pretty low level for me. So those are some ones I like as well. And then ADTX, where is she? There she is. I think this one's fine under $2. Under 190 is a better buy. We're waiting for a catalyst, dead bottom chart. So any positive catalyst sends this thing up. We're waiting for an emergency youth authorization. Yes, it's taken a long time to get this, but if we finally get it, it could be massive. So we'll be watching this one for sure. JD, let's take a look at JD. What is JD? Boom. Let's see what this one's looking like. It's got to break back above the low. It's just looking good. It's putting in higher lows, uptrending. Let's break back above this low 90s, and then we'll pop to the upsides, and I like that one a lot. WKEY, the reason why I like this one is that it was let's take a look. This one had ties to, I believe it has multiple different ties. It has ties to the EV sector and also has ties to the crypto sector, which is why I'm in it. It's solid. I mean, it's uptrending, so I like it a lot. I don't want to drop these shares in this one because I'm in it. I'm not in a lot though. I'm in a pretty small position, but it's uptrending. I like these kind of bottomed out plays that were oversold, putting in some higher lows with catalysts or with hot markets or with hot sectors running that it has ties to. So I like it. So that's why I like this one a little bit. Potential upside. So LTBR is a nice chart. I like that one a lot. Personally, I'm up already on it. So, again, understand that a lot of these plays that I like doesn't mean that, you just buy them blindly. I don't recommend anyone do that. Let's see. Pfizer, Pfe. I'll look at this guy and then we'll kind of wrap things up because we are been going for about an hour and a half, a little over an hour and a half. So those who missed out on the beginning, this should stay up on the channel so you can go back and rewatch the beginning where I went over kind of a lot more stuff in depth and we had a bunch of ideas and questions thrown around. So uptrending right here. The thing with Pfizer is that we have potential good news coming. So the option contracts should go up in value if you're playing options. I think we only have a couple dollar upside or downside in terms of risk reward here. So it's not a huge big time gainer, but it pops over this 38 and it has it might have some legs to the upside. So I kind of like it. As well. So I think it's fine. The only problem with I'm not going to probably play it because you're risking the bad news. If the vaccine does not get the approval, then what happens, right? Then the market may go down. The stock's going to come down pretty hard. So I'm just not going to risk that. Hopefully everything works out for those in it, for those, just for the sake of honestly, the world, honestly, right? For the sake of everyone, I hope everything goes well, but I'm just not going to mess with that. I've had too many bad experiences, and for me, the risk reward here is not ideal. So, I'm sure you can play it a bunch of different ways, but just not a huge fan for me. QLGN is also more waiting for the FDA approval. Exactly. QLGN, let me just take a peek on this guy where it's at right now. Didn't really respect the support that I like, but it's not dropping below 3, so I think it's fine. It's honestly okay. I would have loved it to hold this support here at this 360, 370, but it didn't. But it's still okay. It's consolidating. It might make it when it gets the news. If it gets the positive news, it's going to pop. So we'll see with that. We'll see what that says. Okay, guys. So I'm going to do SPE. I'll look at the last one, SPE, and then I'm going to wrap things up. Look at futures really quick, and then we'll wrap on up. This thing is up so much. For those who were grabbing this thing in the teens, awesome job. I know the 50 SMA was a beautiful support buy here around 13, which is awesome. I just think it's a little overextended. So what I want to see is a consolidation, either a bigger dip or a consolidation. So give it some more time personally, and then that's that. Go watch the Packers game. That's what I'm probably going to do, honestly, just to chill out before the end of the night. So Solo, we'll look at Solo, and then we will wrap it on up. Not a huge fan. I think it's going to come back down personally. It may find support here at 750. That'll be my last kind of line in the sand before a further drop. Pfizer has the vaccine that has to be a super cold temperature. I think there's also 2 rounds of it, so it's not ideal. But I mean, so we'll see what happens. It may not get the approval. If it doesn't happen, that could be a pretty big negative catalyst for the market in general. So with that said, let's take a last second look here at futures. Yeah, the tech's up, but everything's down a little bit. Nothing huge. So we'll see if that changes into the morning. This doesn't seem like a big time, swing in either direction. I appreciate you guys for watching. We hit a new record high of 227 likes at the time I'm saying this right now, which is awesome. For those who are new here, make sure you subscribe. Grab your 4 free stocks with Webull. That's this platform that I'm using for all these videos. So that's what we're using. You get 4 free stocks. The platform's free to use. So it's awesome. I think it's good if you can get access to it. Then take advantage of that. We'll see you guys in the next video. Good luck this week. This should be an exciting week. And then we will see what happens. Every single Sunday night, though, we do come here and go live. So make sure you're tuning in for these videos. And hopefully you guys do well this week. Good luck to everybody. And we'll see you in the next video. Okay, guys? Have a good one. Good luck.